In 1956, an unthinkable truth became clear to Elvis Presley. His music was a double-edged sword. One day, while hanging out at Sun Records, he quietly asked his engineer, Jack Clement, to record a session without telling anyone. Weeks later, a Christmas gift arrived at his home, a 7-inch tape of that secret session meant as a surprise for Audubon Drive, but this gift carried a hidden danger. Elvis had recorded himself singing, unaware that the Colonel, his manager, would soon share this with the world. Elvis had no idea that by doing this, he was walking into a storm. Months later, an old school friend, George Klein, took Elvis to a charity show featuring all-Negro talent. It was a night that would shake Elvis's world. Among the performers were legends like B.B. King and Little Richard, the very artists whose music Elvis had been inspired by and had now started to record himself. Though segregated, the audience loved Elvis when he joined them on stage, singing songs that had started his career. This moment was bittersweet for Elvis. He loved the music he was recording, rhythm and blues, but faced accusations of stealing it. Elvis couldn't fathom why people were so angry. To him, R&B was just music he loved. Rumors began swirling that Elvis said he only wanted black people to buy his records and shine his shoes. These claims made him furious. "People who know me know I wouldn't say such a thing," he told reporters. But the rumors persisted, just one example of the untrue stories that seemed to follow him everywhere. As these controversies unfolded, the Presleys enjoyed a joyous Christmas at their new home on Audubon Drive. It was a time of celebration with friends, a tree filled with lights and gifts galore, including gold records and teddy bears. Elvis even got to sing hymns with his parents, something he had always done in Tupelo but now with a modern twist using a baby organ. Yet happiness had its shadows. Inviting a new girlfriend, Dottie Harmony, into their home upset other girlfriends. Elvis was in love often, but these relationships were mostly without intimacy, a form of gentle respect for those who remained virgins. A looming worry for Elvis was the draft. Being classified 1A meant he could soon be called to serve. He prayed silently, hoping it wouldn't be soon. His career, propelled by television, was flourishing, but the Colonel had a new plan: movies. Before that, Elvis made his final appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show from New York, a grand event that drew fans from across the country. The show was a triumph, with Sullivan praising Elvis and CBS playing it up as a major event. But back in Memphis, life was changing. As Elvis and his family reveled in their new fame, their home became a magnet for fans, turning their private life into a public spectacle. What started with kindness from Gladys Presley, welcoming fans with lemonade, soon turned chaotic. Fans overran their yard, leaving a trail of grass and disruption. The neighbors, overwhelmed, asked the police for help. Elvis enjoyed meeting fans when he could, but it was becoming impossible for his parents to live normally, with their home turned into a constant, unwelcome party. The joy of fame was turning sour, and Elvis knew he had to find a way to balance his life amidst the chaos. Elvis's life took a turn when some neighbors began to grumble about the new family on their block. At first, everyone seemed friendly. Many of the neighbors were middle-class families who had just moved in and were excited to have someone famous living nearby. They even invited the Presleys over for visits, but not everyone was pleased. Some folks found it hard to accept that a famous person like Elvis was now part of their community. They grumbled about the noise and extra traffic Elvis and his family brought. They didn't think about this when they bought their homes. But then some started talking behind closed doors. They whispered that Gladys was still acting like she was back in Mississippi. They said she was bringing down the neighborhood with her old ways and her relatives from Tupelo. These comments hurt Elvis deeply. He loved his mom and didn't want her to feel bad. Elvis told reporters that their house was the only one paid for fully in the area, but he could see the hurt in his mom's eyes when people spoke ill of them. It was clear these comments were hurting her. One day, Elvis overheard his mom talking to a friend from where they used to live. She said, "I wish we were poor again, I really do." Elvis felt a lump in his throat hearing this. He knew how much his mom cherished their simple life, so he made a bold decision. If the neighbors didn't want them, he would leave. He told his mom and dad they should find a new place where they could live without bothering anyone or having neighbors bother them. With a heavy heart, Elvis and the family started looking for a new home. They decided to leave Memphis behind. On his 22nd birthday, Elvis boarded a train to Los Angeles, starting his second movie. They even had a small party on the train, complete with cake and candles to celebrate. Traveling by train gave Elvis time to think and rest. He was used to long journeys now, especially since he was scared when a charter plane almost ran out of fuel once. The train rides allowed him to escape the pressures of being famous for a bit. Back in Hollywood, Elvis was set to make a new movie. Hal Wallis, a well-known producer, wanted to make sure the movie reflected Elvis's real life as closely as possible. He sent the screenwriter to spend time with the Presley family in Memphis. This led to new songs for the movie, including Loving You, which became the movie's title. Elvis usually liked recording songs on a soundstage, but he found that didn't work for him. The noise and interruptions affected his focus. After struggling on a soundstage for Love Me Tender, Wallis finally let him record at radio recorders, where Elvis and the band felt more comfortable. It was there that they met Dudley Brooks, a talented pianist from Los Angeles who would become Elvis's go-to pianist for many recordings. During these sessions, Elvis also recorded One Night, which started as a song with lyrics that were considered too adult for radio. With some changes, it turned into a big hit. While working on his image, a hairdresser suggested Elvis dye his hair black for the Technicolor movie, Loving You. Initially, his hair was darkened with pomade, but black became his signature color. This change in appearance solidified his image and made it harder for him to change back without disappointing his fans. With his new look, Elvis began filming Loving You. The movie's plot revolved around a young man becoming a rock and roll star, a story close to Elvis's own journey. On set, he was surrounded by actors who became like family, including a young Dolores Hart, who would later become a nun. Despite their differences, Elvis was deeply moved by her innocence and dedication to her faith. Through all these changes and challenges, Elvis clung to his roots and the values he held dear, even as the world around him continued to evolve. Elvis Presley, known to many simply as the King of Rock and Roll, had a life that was as glamorous as it was isolating. Coming from Memphis, Elvis felt an outsider in the glittering world of Hollywood. Although he was famous, he didn't fit in with the young, famous crowd. They saw him more as a star than a person. Elvis felt like an imposter, trespassing on their territory. Instead of joining the Hollywood crowd, Elvis sought comfort in familiar faces. He found solace in his cousins, who shared his roots in Memphis. Red West was the first to join his circle, but after he joined the Marines, two more stepped in: Junior and Gene Smith. These were not just friends, they were like a family to Elvis. They were loyal, and they understood him in a way no one else did. Some people, including some of Elvis's girlfriends and even some movie directors, didn't like these companions. They saw them as rough and uncouth, but to Elvis they were a lifeline. These guys protected him, allowed him privacy, and provided companionship. For young men with limited futures, being around Elvis was a dream come true. They were happy to work for him, often without pay, just to be close to the star they idolized. Elvis's fame was both a blessing and a curse. People adored him, but they also kept their distance, unsure how to approach the man who was literally the king of his music genre. Elvis sometimes wished he could share his experience with someone who truly understood. Kings and queens, he thought, had courtiers and flunkies, and in a way, that's what he had too. As the king of rock and roll, Elvis felt the weight of being a symbol, not just a musician. He didn't want to be seen as bigger than his music, which was just something he loved to do. Despite the accolades, he remained humble, avoiding the idea that he had changed the world. To him, it was simply about singing. His film Loving You showcased his acting skills more than previous roles. But what people remembered were the songs, especially the heartfelt moment at the end of Got a Lot of Livin' to Do. During this scene, Elvis's parents were in the audience, a touching moment for him. He introduced them to the Hollywood crowd, proud to share his life with them. After filming, Elvis took his parents on a tour of Hollywood. They loved every minute of it. A few days later, while back in Memphis, they stumbled upon a house that caught Elvis's eye: Graceland. It was old, needing a lot of work, but it offered privacy and space. It was the perfect escape from the constant attention. Elvis bought Graceland on a whim, signing papers that day and starting a journey of renovation and creation. He transformed it into a home filled with his dreams, from a massive pool to a special bedroom designed for privacy. Though some thought the gates were too flashy, Elvis didn't care what others thought. For him, Graceland was a sanctuary, a place where he could be himself, away from the constant gaze of the public. In the end, Elvis Presley was more than just a star. He was a man seeking normalcy amidst chaos, a king who wanted a simple place to call his own. Graceland became his castle, his refuge, and a symbol of the dreams that music could make real. Through it all, the love and loyalty of his cousins and the simple joys of home stayed at the heart of who Elvis was, beyond the glitter and glory of fame.